You are now listening to the Walking Leader podcast, episode number 240.
Hey, welcome back to another action-packed episode of the Walking Leader podcast. As always, I am your host, David Guerra, author of The Walking Leader, and the Walking Leader podcast is here to help give you, current and future leaders, the rules and the tools to help you succeed as a leader in your organization, as well as in your professional and personal life. And in this episode, well, this is episode 240, and we're going to continue talking on our 2022 series on self-leadership and soft skills. And this episode's soft skill is written communication. So let's get started. So you know how we do this here on this podcast. We give you some definitions and then we get right into it. So again, let's define self-leadership. It's based on you, current and future leaders, taking the initiative and being proactive. A self-leader means you are intentionally influencing your thinking, your feelings, your actions towards your objectives and goals, whether it be personal, professional, or both. You must take that first step, that second step, the third step, and every subsequent step thereafter to achieve those objectives and goals. Because if you don't take, obviously the first step is easy, but it's the second, third, fourth, and every step thereafter it gets a little bit harder. And don't give up. Soft skills. Well, what are soft skills? Soft skills are defined as the interpersonal attributes that enable someone to interact effectively and harmoniously with other people while performing those technical or hard skills you have learned. So this is what wraps everything up, and this is how you present those technical or hard skills. Written communication, that's this episode's topic, and from the Indeed.com website. And as always, all links are on the show notes. The Indeed.com website defines written communication as any written message that two or more people exchange. Written communication is typically more formal but less efficient than oral communication. Why? Because it takes time to read and write it, other than just sitting here and listening to the podcast, right? So examples of written communication include emails, text messages, blog posts, business letters, reports, proposals, contracts, job descriptions, employee manuals, memos, bulletins, instant messages, postcards, faxes, advertisements, brochures, and of course, news releases. And most businesses require and depend on written communication to function and share information. That's non-negotiable, folks. That's just the way it is. And yes, even in this 21st century, social media, we're out there putting content out, we're generating content, but no matter what, they're still writing on that content. A meme, is it a meme? Is it a meme if it does not have any writing? Is it truly a meme? Right? Exactly. Now, the only form that isn't written is the podcast. But then again, there's the show notes, and where we have all of the podcast links and mentions and all of that information. So again, it's still some type of written communication must be presented. All right, so let's get into this. Again, as always, we ask that question: why is this soft skill important? Why is the soft skill of written communication so important? Because just like storytelling and verbal communication and visual communication, the soft skill of written communication is essential when it comes to trying to properly and effectively convey your message in a format that is, well, long form, obviously, because it's going to be written, and whether we can sit here and talk about it and verbally communicate about it, but when you sit down and write it, whether it's a short paragraph, it's in long form, because you're taking the time to put these letters in this order, to make these words, to make these sentences, to make this paragraph, to convey the message. Now, the ability to get your message across is critical to being an effective leader, because in the military, if you can write out an operations order to put the individuals where they need to be on the time that they need to be, and the supplies where they need to be, and the pickup where it needs to be, and the execution plan and all the support elements in place, and you can effectively write that, and everybody does it and everybody understands it, and they're there on that appointed time, you've got a mission accomplished. And it's just that simple. And the same goes for business, same goes for your professional life, same goes for your personal life. If in writing you can convey this message that's crystal clear, understood, without any ambiguity, without any hemming or hawing, or just, I'm not too sure, what is he trying to say here? What is Dave trying to say there? No, if you can effectively communicate through the written form, again, mission accomplished. So yes, and when you use that in combination with other forms of communication, the written, the visual, with the written, along with visual and oral communication, and you've got that under control, then it's even that much better because you're that much more effective. So when you use those forms, you can easily and properly convey that message. And most of all, you are ensuring that that message is understood. And when that message is understood, magic happens, folks. It's just that simple. Now, the cons of written communication, again, it's just like everything else. Yes, you can write it out. You can present your message, but is it the right lingo? Are you using the right jargon? Or should you be avoiding the jargon? Are you using big complex words when just a couple of things could really just be either omitted or left in? Then again, if you are using the jargon and you're using the big words, are you writing for that audience? So are you understanding your audience? And of course, it definitely pays to stay on topic without a doubt. And whatever the objective is of that form, that written form, make sure you stay on topic, you stay on target, you're ready to go, and that individuals understand what you're saying, and maybe get a proofreader, get someone involved in there to help put it all together. But again, it doesn't matter whether it's just a short, quick paragraph, or you're writing directions for someone to get to your house from the airport, or it's how to print a report using certain parameters. The way to write it, and is it effective, and how you write it, is it going to get done? Is the mission going to be accomplished? And by doing it, and you do get the mission accomplished, well, kudos to you. But then again, there's going to be those times when you don't get it accomplished, when you miss the mark just by that much. And that's okay. That's how you learn from it. So don't feel bad. Don't give up. Oh, well, I'll just draw a picture. I'll print up a map. I'll go online. No. You practice. You take that as a practice opportunity. You practice and you practice and you practice and you write and write and write. And someone asked me one time, how do you become a better writer? You write. That's how you become a better writer. How do you convey the message? You write. You start off writing. And again, my first books, again, they're not the greatest. They're not Pulitzer Prize winning books. But again, I had to start someplace. And of course, I had to start at the deep end of the pool. But with that being said, I'm continuing to write, and I'm continuing to speak, and I'm continuing to convey the message. I'm continuing to do visual communication, written communication, oral communication, and putting it all together, and here we are. But again, it's about not giving up, folks. You've got to stay focused, stay on task, stay on topic, keep working on your message. And again, one other thing that somebody said to me a long, long time ago, and it's been said many times before, brevity is the essence of wit. Now, that's fine. Brevity, keeping it short, keeping it brief, but you're not going to be able to do that up front. And I know this because I'm still notorious for this. I write and I write and I write and I overwrite and I overspeak and I overpresent, and that's okay. But at some point you recognize, well, maybe I do have to overwrite. I do have to overdraw. I do have to overpresent, because my audience is either a first-time user or they attended one time and then they're coming back for more. That's fine. But then there's going to be times where you just got to do a quick 1, 2, 3, bang it out, and it's gone. 3 sentences, and there it is. And that's it. And it's brief and to the point, and it answered the question. Again, know your audience. Know what you're doing. Be proactive when it comes to that. Understand who you're communicating to. Who's going to read this? Who's going to read this? A first timer or somebody who wants a refresher? And if it's somebody that wants a refresher, maybe a different form of writing is needed for them. Again, understand your audience, and then they can understand you. And of course, as always, the 7 habits. I just went through habit 1, habit 5, and now habit 7. Sharpen the saw, keep writing, always be writing. Never stop writing. Start a journal if you're not journaling. But again, understand that you're going to write and you're going to make mistakes, and sometimes you're going to hit home runs. But when you make those mistakes, identify what you did right up until the point you made the mistake. What went wrong? Identify what went wrong. Understand what you can do next time, because there will be a next time. You're going to find yourself in that situation again. And by doing that, well, guess what? You've got it. And hey, you know what else doesn't hurt? It's getting someone to proof your work, read your work. I have somebody that reads my work, and it's the greatest thing. And then now I'm getting to the point where I have 2 or 3 other individuals that read my work. Because again, eventually the first person gets to know my style and they fall into it. And it's easy to get into that, to fall into that, and it's okay. So you bring in a second person. Then that second person starts understanding my style and then starts overseeing or starts overlooking. You know what they say about can't see the forest for the trees. Exactly. So bring in another person, and that's fine. So take as many as you need, but start off with one. At least have one person that's going to read your written work, and then go from there. And make sure that the message is understood and it's conveyed and you stayed on topic and you're delivering the answers, or you're answering the questions you started off with. What were the questions? What brought you to this? What made you write this? And then you effectively answer that. So, speaking of effectively answering and writing, can the written communication be mastered? Most certainly. Most certainly. But again, it's like everything else that I've mentioned in this podcast series. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of work. But with written communication, you can master it. You can master it to your niche. Because again, what are you writing for? What are you writing for? Who are you writing for? If you're writing for yourself, you're going to master that no problem. If you're writing it for an audience of Java coders, well, again, got to keep them entertained, because again, they're there for the work. So you've got to make sure that you can deliver that information to them as they need it. So again, and to keep them entertained is that, hey, you've delivered it quick, concise, straight to the point, no pulling punches. And you also shared some of the things that may go wrong. And that's always a good thing when you can share what may have gone wrong. Because again, coders are linear thinkers, linear people. You got to do step A before you can do step B, before you can do step C. Well, the same thing. But what could go wrong at step B? And you share that with them. So again, understand your audience. That's really what I'm getting at, is work with your audience, understand them, get to know them, and trust me, you will master the skill of written communication way before you know it. You'll have it mastered. Now, I'm not saying I've mastered it. No, I have not mastered written communication, but I'm still practicing. And I will continue to practice. And maybe it'll take a lifetime for me, but everybody goes at their own pace. Everybody has their own standard. Okay, so nobody, I cannot, how do you say it? I can't be a Tom Clancy because, well, one, there's already a Tom Clancy, and he's no longer with us, but there was already a Tom Clancy, so there'll never be another Tom Clancy. But when I write, I want to make sure I entertain. I want to understand my audience. So the same thing with you. When you write, make sure you understand the audience and deliver what they need, what they're asking for. Well, that's it for this episode of the Walking Leader Podcast. Do you agree with what I just talked about here in episode 240 on written communication, or do you disagree? Either way, even if you have comments, questions, concerns, agree, disagree, let me know. Reach out to me on Twitter at Dave Guerra, all one word, DaveGuerra, or at the drop me an email. Dave@DaveGuerra.com. That's my email address. Wear it out, please. Dave@DaveGuerra.com. Or you can leave me a message on the Walking Leader hotline at 956-720-0060. Let me know what you think. And listen, I want to thank you for your time. I really, truly do appreciate you making it to this point of the episode. Again, I am David Guerra, author of the books The Walking Leader and Great to Follow, and I invite you to subscribe to the Walking Leader podcast on Apple Podcast, or formerly iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, and you can find all those links on the DaveGuerra.com website. And lastly, I want to remind you to always go beyond the grind and go beyond the hustle, because that is the only way to be the walking leader and a leader that is truly great to follow. Until next time, I thank you.
The Walking Leader podcast is a David Guerra presentation.